So, chapter 8, I think. Oh, here we go. We're going to talk about in chapter 8, recording, adjusting, and closing entries for service business. We're going to start out by just addressing or defining accounting concepts relating to adjusting and closing entries. Thank you. We're going to talk about the difference between temporary and permanent accounts. We'll work on adjusting entries, and then we'll work on recording closing entries, and then we'll do the post-closing trial balance for service business. And hopefully, by the end of this chapter, we will understand all the steps in the accounting cycle, like those that are outlined on that poster over there. Okay. So, adjusting entries. These are the journal entries that are recorded to update the ledger. So, in chapter 6, when we did our worksheets, we did those adjustments. Those two columns in the worksheet where we did the adjusting debit and credit. Now we're going to do the entries in the journals to put that information into our journal. Because the only way that we can update our ledger balances is if we journalize the transactions. So now those adjustments that are in the worksheet, we're going to actually pull into our journals and our ledgers. So, as such, the information for our adjusting entries is going to be our worksheet. Remember, we always have some sort of evidence before we can do a journal entry. So, in the past, all of our journal entries were based on some record, like if it's a check or a sales invoice or something. Now, for the adjustments, for the adjusting entries, our information is going to come from the worksheet. And we're going to match, remember before we talked about in chapter 6, the A transaction and the B transactions. So we were going to basically take all the letters and from the worksheet adjustments columns, match them up and do the debit and credit from them. So here we have an example with this T account where we have an adjustment A and A, where we have a supplies expense debit and supplies adjustment credit to reduce the supplies balance. So these are the columns in the worksheet, and this is the T account. So now we're going to take that information from the adjustments columns in our worksheet, and we're going to put it down here in our general journal. We're on page 3 in our general journal. We're going to put a heading for the adjusting entries, and then we're going to debit that supplies expense part of the adjustment, and then we're going to credit that supplies part of the adjustment. Does this make sense? Show of hands. 1, this makes sense. 2, it sort of makes sense. 5, it does not make sense. Okay, you're 5? Okay. We're going to write the heading on the journal page, write the date for the adjustment, which should be, all of your adjusting entries are going to be the end of that fiscal period. They're going to be the end of the fiscal period because that's when you're going to be actually preparing that worksheet. Remember? So you're going to do the adjusting entry after you do the worksheet. And then you're going to write the account titles and the amount. Account title for the debit and the account title for the credit. And then same type of thing for your prepaid. So you're going to have the date is going to be the 31st. You're going to have the debit, and then you're going to have the credit. That's all there is to doing the adjusting entries. So let's go over and do a work together. Work together 8-1.
It's so funny.
So here on page 205, in our, oops, I lost it. Two oh five in our textbook, we are going to have the problem, and it's basically saying that we're going to journalize and post the adjusting entries using the information from Darlene's delivery service for the month ended July 31st of the current year. The balance shown in each account is the account's balance before the adjustment. And so we're going to use the columns from the adjustments column on the worksheet. We're going to do a journal entry, and then we're going to post the adjusting entry to our ledger balances. So here we have a snapshot of Darlene's. Oh, it keeps disappearing. Sorry about that, guys. I can't seem to. Okay. So here we have Darlene's delivery service, the worksheet. The columns for the trial balance, this space just indicates that they're not shown here for illustration purposes. We're focusing on our adjustments. And we're going to start with doing the A adjustment. Okay, where we have to take the supplies expense and the supplies credit. And we're going to go over to our general journal. And the problem says that we're going to be using page 4 of our general journal. So we'll put page 4 up here. And we will put the title for the adjusting entries. And then we're going to start with our first adjusting entry. So looking back to our worksheet, we see that it's for the period ended July 31st, and our A adjustment is going to be for supplies for $713. So we have to debit, as this column indicates, the debit column, the supplies expense for July 31st. So we're going to have $731. Or July, if you want to put July 31st, and we're going to debit supplies expense. And our document put down as work. And it's in Applia, it won't let you put a document source, just so you know, okay? And then our credit would be from the column. See this credit column? 715 to credit our supplies for 713. Adjustment is adjustment for prepaid insurance and insurance expense. So because the debit is to the insurance expense, I'm going to use that one first. So insurance expense for $300. Also the 30, you don't have to rewrite insurance. $300. And then the credit side is going to be my prepaid insurance for $300. Prepaid. All I need to post it because are my ledger balances up to date yet? No, they're not. So I need to get my ledger balances up to date. My ledger balance, does anybody know what my ledger balance for my say at this moment? Ledger balance is going to be in dollars. These are all my ledger pages. Okay, so if I go over to my ledger page for supplies, my ledger balance for supplies shows that supplies balance is $960. So now I have to do my payment. Put in what's my post reference here? General Journal, page 4, G4. And I have an adjustment of $713. I'm going to a debit $13. Am I doing a debit? $2 to reduce my balance down to $250, right? So now my balance is up to date, and I've got to bring my post reference number, back to the column here for 40. Ay, ay, ay. This is just not working for me here. Then we're going to do our second transaction for insurance expense. So I'm going to debit my insurance expense. Oops, did I finish? No. I didn't do the supply side, the supplies expense side. I've got to go over to the supplies expense side and do that. Nobody's correcting me here. Why is that? I am not perfect, my dear. Just ask my daughter. She'll tell you. Just not perfect. I never claimed that. Okay. Adjusting entry. Post reference is going to be G4, and I have a $713 amount, and this is a debit balance for $713, and I bring that $540 back over to my journal page, and this is wrong. So this is $140 is here and $540 is here. I'm sorry about that, you guys. My mistake. Okay. So the supplies expense is $540 and the supplies account is $140. Then we're going to do the insurance expense entry. Go over to the ledger for the insurance expense. Again, also July 31st, adjusting entry. Post reference is G4. And the amount is $300. And it's a debit balance. And then I take the $520 and I bring it back over to the journal. $520. And then I do the credit to my prepaid insurance to bring the balance of my prepaid insurance back down. The 31st adjusting entry. G4. And it's $300, and it brings my balance down to $900, and I bring the post reference of $150 back over to here. What should end up happening after you do your posting is the amounts in your prepaid insurance and your supplies after the adjustments, these balances should now match the balances for those accounts on your balance sheet columns of your worksheet. You know you've done it right if those balances match the balance columns and the balance columns of your worksheet. Okay, this is not right if after your adjusting entry this doesn't match. Okay, so check your work if it doesn't match. All right, let's go back over to our notes and finish out the close. Well, I'm going to stop there. You guys, I'm going to let you guys work on the the application problem. Okay?